On that coffee, I know that.
Yeah. Well, it shows to be live. We ain't got anybody on there just yet. Get this turned over here to we read some comments. Whoo! Cold out here. How cold was it in the truck on over?
Pretty cold. Pretty cool.
Come on.
Oh, on the temp, I don't know.
Should have been out riding motorcycles tonight.
Oh, on the temp, I don't know.
Should have been out riding motorcycles tonight. There we go. We got it on. We live. There you are. I don't know if there's anybody in here watching or not. Is there anybody watching? I see one thumbs up and two peoples. Two persons is showing there. First responder to garage. Hey, good to have you in here, man. It's cold out here. We just got out here in the shop. It's a little bit later. It's almost 8 o'clock. I guess it is 8 o'clock. I don't know. But we just got out here. And Doug's hovering over the coffee pot over here. I'm fixing to go hover over it myself. But yeah, we out in the outfit tonight. We got that's an old 305 block we've been working on. I see unfinished projects in there. Good to have you. I see three peoples are in there now. Hey, the more the merrier. I don't know how long we're gonna hang out here tonight. We're just gonna be out here for a while, and I thought while we was out here, might as well turn the camera on and let it roll. See if we can't start the new year off right with some Monday Night Lives. We a little later than normal, but we're getting in there. At least we'll be in there tonight. I was in the shop a while today. It's cold. Yep, there's Mr. Cope Racing. Good to see you in here. John Cope Transmissions. Good to have you. We just piddling around out here. It's I don't know, what's this temp gauge over here say? It's about 42. That ain't too bad. 42 degrees ain't too bad out here.
Colder than that outside.
Colder than outside, yeah. We got the furnace going. We got a little old motor here. It's the motor you might have seen us working on. Over here, one of them that we broke free outside. I can't remember which one this is. It's not the one that had the drop valve, I know that. But we're cleaning on it. It's going to take a little bit more extensive cleaning than what we was just going to try to do a little quick deal on it and make it run. But this thing's so rusty, we're going to clean it up. So it needs it pretty bad. And the cylinders look really good in it. It's absolutely zero wear. I think this motor was probably it probably had less than 30,000 miles on it whenever it was in a burnt vehicle is what happened. Let me see if I can find it here. Let me clean this up. I got a thrust bearing I'm going to show you, and I may have some rod bearings. Let me see what I can get. I'm going to give you some advice on dealing with burnt engines. Y'all bear with me tonight. I got a little bit of the croup, just some sinus drainage, and it's been bothering me a little bit, but it ain't the COVID or the flu or nothing like that. It's not that serious. It's just sinus junk been bothering me. But I'm going to give you a little bit of heads up on what to do if you notice, I don't know if you can see it, see the black on the thrust bearing, and you can see right in here the bearing, there's no wear in that bearing, but
Unfinished project says most 305s have less than 30,000.
you got that right. This is a special project though, but there's no wear in these bearings. That's just letting you know that the motor was fresh. But look in here and show it. See these spots? What that is, that's where the Babbitt lining, if they still have Babbitt on them, I'm assuming they do, the way this looks. See right there where it's coming loose? This motor got so hot that it started melting the Babbitt off of the back bearing. Most people would throw this in the trash, and we probably ought to, but hey, we're a YouTube channel and we're finding content to do. So always, if the motor's been hot down low, check your bearings. Most of the time the motor's going to be okay. It's just, you know, just a few
Auto salvage outlaw says, what you doing?
freezing to death what we doing out here at Auto Salvage Outlaw. It's cold, but that was a thrust bearing. Let me show you the rod.
On the barn says, just put some leather in it and send it.
Hey! We would have probably done that on the berm, but look at this.
There's Jim's fastback in there.
You see how the Babbitt ran out and stuck between the two. That's the reason why we pulled this motor on down. I seen all that. That wouldn't have lasted long. Look at that bearing. That is pretty serious. So we put some fresh bearings in this thing, or we're going to, and we got some new seals, gaskets, bearings going in it. But first we've got to clean it up. So but it's not going to be too bad. I've cleaned up motors like this and they run for a good long while. I don't expect this 305 to be anything spectacular. I'm going to say it's more or less going to be a backup spare motor just to get us by in case your other motor goes. It's just an experiment I had in my mind. I wanted to try. The situation is I wasn't going to talk a whole lot about it, but might as well. Everybody gonna make fun of 305s anyway. I do too, so don't worry about it. But a 350 in this class, in these sport mods, or not sport mod, but a Southwest mods, a 350, you have to have a open chambered head, and the camshaft rule is like a 430 lift cam. I mean, you can't have a camshaft in it, and so it's a hydraulic.
It's cold and wet there.
Cold and wet up there, but you got to have a 430 lift, and it's got to pull 15 inches of vacuum after the race. So you could run the 350 with open chambered head, 487 heads, 487X heads, 441s, 882s, heads like that. And anyway, you can run those open style truck style headers, or heads, I mean. But you can run a 602 crate motor, and they've got a better camshaft, they got better heads, but by the time you get it in the car, you're looking at about $6,000 compared to one of these motors that we build out of the shop here for maybe $2,000. So I mean, we build them dirt cheap. But most people look at it as, well, if you're going if you're going to build a motor, you might as well build one right. And I'm not disagreeing with that. But if you're on a tight budget like we are, you got to scratch together what you can. And I have proven time and time again that a really good put together motor is just as good as a high dollar put together motor. So I've ran right side by side with them and even passed them, some of the better motors. But a lot of it is just good pieces and parts inside the motor, and machine work is what causes the cost of it to go up whenever we're running cheaper stock parts, stock crank, stock rod. Everybody knows the 350 that we're talking about here is going to run about 300 horsepower. So maybe 250 to 300 horsepower. But anyway, besides all of that, you can run a 305, but it has to have, you can run a 305 head. Let me back that up. Yeah, you can run a 305 head, but it has to be on a 305 short block. So I just wanted, for my peace of mind, I'm gonna do some valve work and stuff. You cannot port the heads, and the compression ratio can't be lower than a 9 to 1 or 9.5 to 1, something like that. I have to go back and look at the rules exactly, but it's right in that area, 9 to 1, 9.5 to 1. But you can run a 305 and do that. So, and the cam rule's the same. So that's the reason why I'm doing this, just to see. I have had 305 heads on 350s before, and I know how good they run. Smaller chambers compared to the open chambers with bigger bore. I know cubic inch comes into play, but I also know a smaller area with a tighter quench might come out be pretty close. So I ain't saying it's going to be a superior motor by far, but it might be close, and that's the whole point. Is there a weight for the crank? Yes, there's a crank weight rule, 48 pounds. In other words, stock. So it's got to be at least a stock crank. You can't, stock or heavier, you can't get any lighter than that. So so that's our downfall on that. We're working on trying to get that figured out there, first responder. I'm working with a machine shop at BB Cylinder Head. We've got to get with them on the pistons that we have. We're going to run the stock pistons. They've got a dish. Excuse me. Let me get one of these pistons. They've got a slight dish. I haven't cleaned them up, but it's I don't know how many cc's it is, but it's a slight dish, and they're stock rods or X rods. They're good rods. I'm not worried about those. We don't turn these motors up really high. I think 62, 6300s all are supposed to run them anyway. So I'm not worried about the bottom end. But just an experiment. Hey, see what happens. You can get 305s for a dime a dozen. You go down to the local salvage yard, it's kind of like the grocery store. When you go to the grocery store over here by us, we got a grocery store that has a pick 5 for $19.95. Well, pick 5 305 for $19.95. That's about how cheap they are. So and that's another reason why I'm doing this, is because as long as our compression ratio is in there really close to that, I think we'll be good. I may be totally wrong. That motor may be a dog, and we may be wishing we never saw it. But hey, I'm not
Well,
not too concerned about it, so.
also with, I mean, why spend all that extra money on stuff, good stuff?
Good stuff, yeah.
When you can't turn it to 6,000 anyway.
Right.
You're on a 6,000 chip.
Yeah,
so-
yeah, I mean, we're not gonna be able to, I mean, we're not, like I say, that motor's not gonna be putting out a ton of horsepower. So why spend the money on a nice Corella rod and a Wiseco piston? Of course, I don't wanna do we're not even supposed to do that in this class. You're supposed to run stock or non-performance pistons, non-high performance pistons. You can run a high protecting. I don't even think they want you to run a forged piston in these motors. So that's another reason why it's supposed to be an inexpensive build. So that's the whole point of this.
Right here is a crankshaft.
Is there a deck? I don't think there's a deck height rule. That's another thing we're going to look at. First thing we're going to look at is just see how this thing will run. Once we get things going, we want to see how it runs, and then if we think we can improve on it by, we get our compression figured up, we get our heads figured out, we get with the head shop and show him our pistons and everything. We'll get our deck height figured out, and then we may, on the next motor, we may deck it, we may cut the heads a certain amount, everything. They're all the tricks. I mean, there's ways of doing it, but again, we have to keep that compression ratio around, I believe it's 9 or 9.5 to 1. So, C. McMillan Cattle Company, come in there. Good to have you. That's right. It does make it lighter by going every ounce we can cut off of it. That'll make a big difference on this motor here, or this car. These Southwest mods, they're kind of like a sport mod or a B mod, basically. So
You've got to run an 8.9 pound.
8.9 pound harmonic balancer. So you gotta keep a heavy balancer on the front. You can't run just a hub. So while we're putting that motor together, the 350 for a 355, we're going to be putting a 305 together. So 50 cubic inches is the difference, and I know that's a lot. That's a lot. I know these motors stock put out 180 horsepower, 150, 180 horsepower, but I think with the right cam profile, we can get our 430 lift and our 15 inches of vacuum, and I think we can make a little bit of horsepower up in that area in that camshaft if we get the right person a hold of that. I've got a guy that's going to be working on that for us and coming up with us a good grind, and he's mainly going to be building it for our 355. He told us don't even worry about the 305. He said just don't even mess with it. He said I understand the principle of it. He said but in this, he said I think you need the cubic inches, and I understand the principle of that as well, and I'm with him. But again, this is called an experiment. So
And for the price of that,
for the price of it, it's
what we've got in them so far, why not?
right.
I mean,
And so that's I think it's fun. It's content. To me, it's something I've never really thought about until we got it looking in this class. So, hey, if old Chad up there at Square Body Stuff is willing to try it in his C10, I can't remember what year model truck he's got, but it's an old C10 up there, and if he's willing to try it in that, I'll be willing to try one of these cars here and just see. Hey, if it scatters, we ain't got much money tied up in this. Right now, we ain't got nothing other than a few roll-off discs and cleaning some of this up. But
Millen Cattle Company said his 304 and his International makes about
150 horse and a ton of torque. That's what we like. That's what we're after. So I've got a set of gaskets coming for this motor. Just basic gaskets, and like I say, first responder, we may look into like a 15,000 shim gasket. We're looking at that, and possibly even cutting the heads a little bit, trying to make our compression ratio right. I don't want to get into the realm of being illegal. I'm not all about that. I don't want to do that. You know, we may push the envelope, but you know, it depends on how big that envelope is. You know, somebody slide the envelope our way and say, go for it. We may go for it, but we ain't seen an envelope come our way yet. But no, I'm just joking around with that. But we're gonna play with this and see what happens. And I've got you plugged in there. I'd take you and show you around here. Let me do something here real quick. If I can find a flip around button. There we go. Don't look at my workbench. That's dirty. Well, there's old Matthew done slipped in here on us.
Oh yeah? Howdy guys.
He got in. He's done dove into that coffee pot over there, and I ain't got in there yet. But we're gonna get there. This is our project. I'll try to get you over here and show you a little better. As you can see here, I started yanking on my wire. Cat come over here yanking on my wire and about yanked the phone out of my hand. But you can see I just took a wire brush and hit that, and it just shined right up. These cylinders are looking really good. I ran a ball and dingle ball home through them. I can't feel nothing right there. Absolutely nothing. So these cylinders have no wear in them. I just run that dingle ball hone in there just to clean them up, and that's all we did. So we're gonna shine this old motor up, clean it up, wash it I don't know, we'll probably wash it 2 or 3 times, and go from there. But it'll be going in one of these. Probably going that gray one over there as it gets together. As you can see right here, that's our 355. It's just sitting there waiting to go together. I've still got to get a few parts for it, but I don't like a whole lot getting everything together for it. I still got to get a camshaft, of course, but anyway, trying to get this brought back down to normal. Does anyone know what cheaper carb cost over the Holley 2300? I don't really know what carburetors are costing right now. Don't really know. We run a 4412 instead of the 2300 series, which is pretty close to the same, but it's what we run on the 2 barrels, 4412s. So anyway, let's look at some of these. Jim's Fastback Garage said, "Hi, Matthew." He's last motor I built for a Dart with a 383 with a Dart Iron Eagle heads and a $700 rotating assembly from Speedway. Yeah, we're looking.
We can't run this.
Yeah, we can't run one of them rotating assemblies unless it is basically a stock replacement stuff. But this 302 over here is sitting right there on that old wooden roll around crate. We've got some plans for that. We've been looking at rotating assemblies and stuff, but we're going to try to get this and that motor there together before we tackle on that. We got to get this together. We got to get that car there finished up. We don't like a whole lot. I just been working a little bit on this when I should have been working on that, but I'm curious on what I'm going to have and need for this is the reason why I started working on it. But I don't want to quit on this because I've got parts kind of scattered over here, and if they get moved, I'm lost because I don't have them marked. So I have them sitting in the exact place I need them, and I don't need them moved. So I've got to hurry up and get this motor cleaned up so I can get my rotating assembly back in it. So again, I've got new bearings for it, but I'm putting a new set of cam bearings in it. Those were junk, especially the back ones. It just sat long, and like I say, the heat was pretty hot on the back side of this motor where the firewall was at and everything. It just got the old motor hot. And like, again, this motor may be junk, but we'll find out whenever we fire it up. So, but anyway, let me get you back down here. I see LP, Lars is in here. Happy New Year's to everybody. Tim Windsor, good to have you in here. I'm gonna get you flipped around here and get you back up here on this bench, and I'm gonna go get me a cup of coffee. I'll be right back. Yeah, it'll work. That's just no two-barrel motorcraft. It'll work just fine. It'll run good because it's basically built for a 302, 351 Windsor, and that 304 is the same cubic inches. So, yeah, it'll work just fine. I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. So, and they're pretty relatively easy to work on. And they're cheap. I mean, if you've already got one, tear it apart, just get you a clean table to work on, take that top off of it, and go ahead and get you a rebuild kit for it. And if you can, get you a can of Berryman's carburetor dip. That stuff isn't as good as it used to be, but it's still good enough to eat the anodizing off of it. I can promise you that. But you can go to a Napa Auto Parts store and get a Napa brand carburetor cleaner, or you can get the Berryman's and get that. Just don't leave, you read the instructions on it, don't leave it in there for no longer than 2 hours or so. Pull it out and clean it. And I didn't have any of that carburetor dip myself, and I sent it to a guy, and he said, I got some of that. He said, just send your stuff over here, I'll clean it for you. He left it in there overnight, pulled it out the next day, and had all the gold anodizing off my Holley carburetor. And it was all gone, and it was eating on the aluminum. So that's the reason why you don't leave them in there for a good long while. But you could put that stuff in there, clean it up, wash it, and get you two or three cans of brake cleaner, carburetor cleaner, something like that. We use brake cleaner because it's a little taller can, bigger can, and get you some safety glasses so you don't come out of there screaming and running back to mama crying because your eyes are burning so bad because it squirted right back in your eyes. Ask me how I know. But just you clean that thing up, have your carburetor kit there, and just start putting it right back together. They're pretty simple, and pretty simple. They're I wouldn't be scared of diving in one. I've tore into them. I've tore into Edelbrocks and Hollies, and the only ones I have a problem with is Quadrajets. I haven't really got them figured out yet real good. And the old Motorcraft 4 barrels, Autolite 4 barrels. Autolite, I can kind of deal with them because they were basically like two barrels put together on each end. But the old Motorcraft carburetor, it looked like a basketball had been ran over a truck. Them old Motorcraft 4 barrel, they basically needed ran over by a truck. I never have liked a Motorcraft 4 barrel. So, yeah, I'd dive in on that McMillan. I don't see a problem with that at all. It's off of 302. Oil gas mixture, that rubber. Yeah, that you just need to clean it up and let it soak in some of that stuff. That's just old gas that's set and dried in your carburetor. That you get you some of that carburetor dip that I'm talking about. It's in a gallon can. You can get it in a quart can, but it's hard, you can't set your body of your carburetor down in it. But you get you a gallon can of either Berryman's carburetor cleaner kit, and they'll usually, you go to a parts store, you tell them what you want to do. It's a little expensive, around 60, 70 bucks for a gallon, but as soon as you're done with it, you take everything and put your lid back on it good and tight and set that up. It'll last you a good long while. You can come back, clean another carburetor with it. And and if you really don't want to spend that kind of money, it might be about as well to get on Amazon and order a brand new carburetor, because you can buy one of them probably about as cheap. So yeah, the 2150s, they are good carburetors. That's why I was saying I wouldn't have a problem with them, because the old Motorcraft 2 barrels, Autolite 2 barrels, they're really good.
McMillan said he found the 600C up in Holly on the side of the road that I'm carrying apart.
Hey, I don't blame you.
If it's a 2 barrel, send it all the way.
If that's a 2 barrel, we'll tear it apart for you. We know what to do with them. But it's probably a little 4 barrel, I'm sure. But on a 600 Holly 4 barrel, you got to make sure that the transfer tube, it goes from the front bowl to the back. It'll be on the passenger side of the carburetor. When you go back together with it, you got to make sure you got your seals in there right. Because if you don't, when you put it all back together, as soon as you put gas pressure to it, it'll leak out of one of them seals. That's the downfall to the 600. Everything else on the 600 is good. I don't have a problem with them. But that little transfer tube, you got to make sure you got your right seals in. That's the.
McMillan said he's getting some of that stuff you're talking about tomorrow somewhere.
That's what I'm saying. If you have a Napa store close by, they can help you out. They're really good about that. Now, your regular O'Reilly's and Advance and Twilight Zone stores, they have it, I think, and if they don't, they can get it. But most of the time, the Napa stores have it in stock. Like I say, the Napa has it in the Napa brand in a can like that. and it's about, like I say, between 50 and 60, around 50, 60, 70, shouldn't be 70 bucks, but 50 or 60 bucks will get you a gallon of it, and it'll last you a good long while. You can clean carburetor after carburetor after carburetor, just as long as you don't spill it, and when you pick your stuff back up out of it, just dump it right back off in there. The good clean stuff, and the nasty stuff, you wash that off somewhere else in another pan. And
I think that Berryman's comes with a basket. in
most
it.
of them have a basket in it, you know, to where you can put your smalls in, especially your smalls, and your body of your carburetor. It may not fit down in there just right. You may have to soak one side of it and take it out, flip it over and put it on the other side, you know, a cup, you know, hour and a half on each side. See how it looks. That should loosen that tarnish up.
Then take you a can of brake clean or carburetor cleaner and spray it down.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that first responder, a ultrasonic cleaner. I just haven't broke down to buy one yet, and I didn't know how they would work when it come to the old tarnish like McMillan there's talking about.
Bill 394 said the last gallon of Berryman's that he did, that he bought was $60.
$60. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking it was around in that price range. So. Oh yeah. Whew.
Auto salvage outlaws said LP is right on the price.
Yeah. That's why I was thinking between 50, 60 bucks somewhere in there, depending on the store you're at. Some stores are a little bit more. Usually a Napa store is going to be just a little bit higher. Cool thing about the 2300 Holly is it is a factory carb on my International pickup that has 4,300 original miles. Hey, I'd clean it up. Those 2,300, I ain't got a problem with them. They're basically the same as a 4412. There's some couple of things different, but they're really good carburetors. I don't have a problem with them. So as a matter of fact, I've run them on these old dirt cars, but we just been running 4412s because they're just more common. So. Yep. What y'all got going on this New Year's Day night? Something like that. I've been standing here rambling. Getting some more of it?
I'm going back.
You diving in?
I'm getting a refill.
Getting a refill. Well, I got me a large cup.
My gauge is getting a little low.
It's starting to warm up a little bit out here in this shop. Okay, it works good. Just don't use a degreaser as carb cleaner. I see that. You'll end up with nothing but brass and linkage after a long soak in the ultrasonic. Okay, well, that's good to know. I've never messed with one. So it'll melt that stuff away, will it? Being lazy, I see that. New fuel pump. International got the 4-wheel drive working. That's good. That's good. Yep. I've
Jim's fastback says it's just watching us.
Yep. First responder, I was talking about a while ago, a buddy of mine, he soaked the last 4412 we built, and it went over there pretty and gold, but the inside was all kind of nasty. He said, I can clean that up in my carburetor dip. So he left it in there all night long and come back, and it was plain aluminum, Yeah, it was eating on that aluminum pretty hard, so it ate all that anodizing off from it.
What is it at? It's sitting around here somewhere.
It's well, maybe. Oh, look in that cabinet right over there. I'm thinking that may be where it's at. It's either there or on top of that toolbox. Your carburetor was pulled off 327. Having an awesome night. 3 a.m. comes quickly, but back to work tomorrow. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Let me show you here. See, the front still has the anodizing on it, but look here at the back. See how it's dirty. But see if you notice, it's got all the anodizing off from it. But
I mean, it runs fine.
it runs fine. It runs perfectly fine.
That's
But
what it'll do. It
that's-
leaves them too long.
That's what they're supposed to look like. But then the body, he left it set in there for overnight, and it ate all the anodizing off from it. So we'll have to clean that carburetor back up before we use it again. But that's all right. Three, 413. Look at that pistons. Going to have to get a custom piston unless I want Bork 440 piston. Yep. We can on these carburetors. We can mill those off. We just don't necessarily mess with it too much because we got to get it to a machine shop and have it cut off. And we could cut it off with a bandsaw and stuff like that, but we just don't mess with it.
You understand?
That's it.
We know if we can cut the choke holders.
Yeah, that's what I was just talking about. Yeah, we can do that, but we just hadn't messed with it.
We've had a couple of them that have been.
Yeah, a couple 2 barrels, a couple 4 barrels we've had been shaved off. So, yeah, like I say, just read the instructions on your McMillan. Make sure you read the instructions, and you'll figure that out. It's pretty much.
But you tell Jim fastback too, that a lot of places that we go and race, you've got to have the choke horn.
Yeah.
You can't cut it off, but other places you can, so.
Yeah.
It's just kind of.
Just depends on where you're at, Rules up here in Arkansas is kind of goofy. One track will be one rule, next track will be a different rule, next track will be a different rule, and you can't, they try, though, the way they used to do it, they tried to set it up where once they got their cars, they didn't want them cars going racing to other tracks. But, and then they would wind up letting those cars get totally outlawed over a period of time, and then those tracks finally closed because nobody can afford to run them. I mean, you're running a Camaro like this, these old stock bodied style Camaros, and people are running 434s and Burt brand transmissions, and and it just 600, 700, 800 horsepower stuff. Whenever you need to spend, if you're going to spend that kind of money on a stock style car, just go ahead and spend the extra money and get you a modified or a late model. I mean, you're going to spend that kind of money because them kind of motors ain't cheap. So, some buddies of mine was running at Batesville in the street stock class. I called it outlaw street stock because the motors were wide open. I mean, you had to have an iron block and iron heads. And I think that was about it. I think that was about all, and you had to have flat top pistons. But I never seen a motor torn down. Never seen them tear a motor down. But I don't even know if they had a flat top piston rule. But
Well, I ain't gonna say who it was, but talked to an engine builder that was building an engine for one of those street stocks that we're talking about. And I just happened to ask him, I said, hey, I said, if I just had to have one of those today, what would it cost me? And he said, well, he said, if you don't have anything and I cut my cost on the labor, he said, you're still looking at 40,000 for
so
one, just like what he was putting together.
why spend that kind of money on these cars? That's my point in racing. Everybody's trying to get the edge. I understand that. That's part of racing competition. But these factory stocks have had a pretty good solid set of rules. But now this coming year, the track owner of a certain track, I ain't naming what track, is starting to open things up. And what he's going to do, he's going to wind up messing the class up, and he's going to divide it. Because right now, the Arkansas factory stocks, we've got a car count. Usually, Batesville Speedway has a car count of around 26, 28 cars show up, sometimes 30 on a factory stock. Well, that's good. But when you split that and make the rules more wide open, Burton brand transmission, I really don't have a problem with that. Quick change rear ends. Really? To me, I understand the principle of a quick change, but in a stock frame car, none of the bodies are stock anymore. We know that, but you're going that far and you're spending that much money on a factory stock. Why not spend the money on a modified? And if you really want to open the motor rules up, just step on out there and get you a late model. It don't make sense to me, or an IMCA stock car. Those cars, I know a guy right now trying to sell one for $47,000. It's race ready, hop in it and go race. $47,000. I don't get the principle of it. I mean, I know money's the name of the game when it comes to racing, but anymore it seems like whoever shows up with the biggest hauler, the biggest toter home, whoever has the biggest, nicest, fanciest wrap on their car, you know, that usually shows who's got the most money. But I still see a guy racing at Batesville. I ain't naming his name, but these guys comes in there with their toter homes and all of that, racing the IMCA stock cars, and this old boy rolls in with a pickup and an open trailer, and he is top 3 every night. That shows me you don't have to have all of that extra. That other stuff is nice, and he don't have the nicest car. He don't have the nicest stuff on the car. But why, on a factory stock class, why spend the money and split it? I know people, that's what happened to the street stocks. They got out of hand. The street stocks around here got totally, completely out of hand. And where the street stocks that were street stocks originally started out as those. As a stock bodied Camaro, Monte Carlo, whatever you had, whether it's Ford, GM, Dodge. So that's where it started out. When I started racing BB Speedway, it's a little old racetrack. It's 15 minutes from here. It's closed down now due to certain circumstances. Things just shut down. But we miss it. We wished it was back, but it'll never come back. It's one of those tracks that's a history. The sign's still up, but it's gone. The street stock class, that's where street stock class started, around this area, 1990. Before that, it was called Bombers, I'm sorry. Before that, the year before, in 1989, they were called Bombers. They moved the class, they changed the name of the class to a street stock because some of the people said that just don't sound good. So they changed it and made it a street stock. Well, the cars that was above them originally was called Hobbies. Well, they turned them loose and started calling them modified stock, which is where these cars were. Or those cars were like these. But they turned into more or less, and that's the class I was running. It kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Guys was running the 421s, the 430s, the 434s, the 440s. They were running the big motors, but it just kept getting faster and faster and faster. Above them was called super stocks, and they looked, you couldn't tell the difference between them and a late model, setting them side by side. And but I was in the modified stock class, and I was doing good to finish top 5. And I had a 383 or 388, which is a 60 over 383. Motor ran good, had no problem out of that. But I didn't have the dart heads, the good dart heads. I had double hump heads, but they had a lot of work done on them. We could have broke down and spent another $10,000 at the time. This was in the 90s, so the parts and stuff was a little bit cheaper back then, but wasn't making that much money. John Wilburn in there?
Yeah.
So I watched it run NMCA. People got priced out. That's right, Pro Street, then priced out to Super Street, then priced out to Real Street, and priced out to Factory Street. That's what happens. People let rules just keep getting farther and farther out, and people building more and more motors. And I understand there's a give and take because everybody wants to build more of an edge, but and that's just part of competition, and you can't really fix that, and you can't really stop that. And it's not. That's not what I'm trying to get at. Is trying to stop it. I'm trying to say that that's what the progression of racing winds up with rule changes, allowing more and more and more. That's what ruins classes and runs them totally out.
It runs your true hobby guys out.
Yeah, your budget racers, that pushes them to a lower class, which isn't a bad deal, but your lower class guys are already on a budget trying to learn, or it may shove you off into a lower class to where you're outclassing everybody else in their class because you've got experience over them. And I'm not saying you're outdollaring them, but you're already there. You know, the lower class is supposed to help build people up for the better classes, but it's to promote and to help. It's training programs and this and that is what the lower classes are. The people wonder why I'm not worried about the cars getting faster at No Name Nationals. let's just have fun and not take second mortgages. That's right. That's right. We showed up with the old smoke show this year. We hadn't spent very much money on the old smoke show, the old blue and white C10. And that old big block Chevrolet, it just runs and runs and runs. I can go out there right now. I haven't started that thing in 3 or 4 days, and it will bust right off. I mean, right now. And I ain't got my keys on me, or I'd show you, but and it is 40 degrees, probably 38 degrees outside right now. But we haven't spent no money on it.
Since Wilbur's in here, man, we appreciate what you do up there.
I'll
We
guarantee
really
you.
do. I mean, hey, we come and have a blast, and we can have a blast on a budget
Hmm.
and have a ball doing it. So we appreciate you. We appreciate what you do.
That's right. We've already got our entry fee paid for 2024. We're in there. At least we've got one of our entry fees paid. Check mark. I'm just going to leave that right there.
We don't know what all we're gonna bring.
We don't know if we're going to bring 1, 2, or 3, but we're going to come to have some fun. And so, Wilburn, we appreciate you, and we're going to help promote this deal. And I'm working on a deal right now to see what we can come up with. But it's fun. It's fun. It's a lot of fun, and it don't cost a lot of money. So we appreciate it. But yeah, on the racing deal, I can understand allowing to get away from the stock transmissions. Let me see what you said. Appreciate you guys. There will always be a place for low budget guys at No Name Nationals. That's it. We're grassroots. We're your drag strip, not your drag strip, but your race is the first drag strip I ever went down. So we can mark that down as history. Old Dirt Tracker's been doing this for 30 years, 35 years. You was the first one to see me go down drag strip, and pretty happy about that. We've had a lot of fun, and we don't know if we'll bring the old stock car back. It's still sitting right there. We don't know if we'll do that. It was a blast, but it was a handful too. Them things want to go left, but we've got an idea what we're going to do.
All those outlaws said we used to take what we had and had a ton of fun with it.
Yep. Yeah, that was that pass got a little hairy toward the end of the racetrack. I can promise you that. It when I grabbed fourth gear, it just kind of went from here to there. But the front tires was bouncing. I think the back tires was bouncing. I don't know. It was just doing this down that straightaway. But Steve, I remember him saying, he said the left front tire looked like somebody was dribbling a basketball down the racetrack. So it was fun. I can promise you that. We got something up our sleeve though. I can promise you. We may bring something a little bit different, a little crazy. But it's gonna be fun. It'll be fun. That's the main thing. Yeah, I've been there. First responder. We had a car like that. We had dropped back because our motor, that 388 I was talking about, and that's a modified stock car. It was basically a sportsman's class car. The motor messed up in it. We spun a rod bearing or main bearing or something in it. So we dropped out of that class and we went to Batesville Speedway, and they had started a brand new class. It was basically a beginner class. It's kind of like the Crown Vic class now is. You couldn't weld a rear end. You had to run a stock motor. You could put a 4-point or a 6-point cage in it, and that was it. So you couldn't have any bracing in the car. We went up there, and we had some experience racing for several years already. It was me and old Doug, and we put that car together in my dad's old shop, a little old 2-bay shop. Wasn't much bigger than one of these bays here. And we went to Batesville with that thing and began to lap the field. It was a Ford Maverick of all things. I think it was a 72 Ford Maverick. Still had drum brakes on the front. Ford Maverick had a 302 in it. So, but they said it had to be a stock 302. They didn't say that it had to be a stock 302 out of that car. Just saying. So my neighbor rebuilt Mustangs. And he just so happened to have a 1991 model GT motor. It was stock, bone stock. We took it, and it was in a burnt car. Matter of fact, it was burnt like this, but it was burnt on top. Bottom wasn't burnt. We pulled the intake off of, valve covers, little shorty headers, the front cover, the whole 9 yards. We had to put the little fuel pump drive on the front of the motor. We put that on there, put all of 10 off of the other motor, the old motor we pulled out of it, put it on there, the intake and the whole 9 yards, went up there and commenced to winning with it. I'm talking the front end was wore out in this car. It had about that much slack. It was terrible, but it just ran. It ran good. And I got hated pretty quick. I got told I was running an illegal car, and I told them, find it, you know. So, and I stunk the class up a little bit, but I had fun. And they's trying to get the class built. And anyway, I won every race that I finished. I don't know how many that. I know I won 3 features, but I won like 5 or 6 heat races in it. And this was the first 6 weeks of racing. They flipped me after the second feature win. The old boy hooked me and flipped me because he didn't want me winning anymore. And he was mad because I was running the Maverick. And they wanted, the guys that's out there said I was running illegal because I didn't have a full frame car. But they said it had to be 108-inch wheelbases or longer. Well, I was running 110. And I told them, I said, you got a 2-inch shorter wheelbase than I got. I'm winning the same amount you are. And you can look under it. I didn't have the frame rails tied together. I said, look at it, look under it. Anyway, we argued and all that, but they was mad. That's the way it always is when somebody's out front. But anyway, they flipped it, rolled me over. I went back to our buddy Jim Benskin. He does our gears for us. Ed Covington was there. He has Charlie's Paint and Body Shop here in Searcy. I got with them guys. We all tag teamed that thing. Everybody jumped in there. We tag teamed it, put that car back together, come back next week, won the heat feature. Same thing. All right, the week after that, I won the heat race, and it rained out for the feature. The week after that, I come back, I won the feature because they ran it first. I come back and win the heat race of that night, and I was passing the guy for the lead. passing the guy for the lead for the feature that night. I was doing everything I could to make a 3-win that night, make 3 wins. And no boy hooked me and rolled me one more time. And I got out of it that night, and I looked at Doug and I said, I think I better be done with this old car. And I said, if I don't, they're going to hurt me. So we parked the car. We built another car. My dad built another car. It was a big old 76 Cougar XR7. About what Wayne Brooks called it, a limousine. It was big. And big old car. I think I won 2 or 3 features in that. So anyway, we had a lot of fun. Doug even drove it a night or two. Had a lot of fun in it. My dad drove it one night. My brother-in-law drove it one night. I can't remember who all. I know Stan Yingling, he drove it for us one day. I don't know. We had a lot of fun in that old car, and but we didn't win with the old big cars much. It was a lot heavier. I couldn't put the weight in it where I needed it, but that was the whole key of that Maverick. I put the weight where it needed to be. So, but yeah, I've told stories and stories and stories. I don't know. Hadn't even been paying attention to what anybody's saying.
Jim Fastback Garage said his first car was a 75 Cougar XR7.
Yep. Those pretty good looking old cars when they're fixed up. Yeah, I see you got flipped a couple times. I've been flipped a few times. And yeah, it's been pretty wild time where we raced at. You have to be on your toes. Them people aim for you. So,
You've actually flipped everything from mini stocks to modifieds.
yeah, I've flipped many stocks. I hadn't flipped a Camaro yet. Doug about flipped one off the end of the racetrack at BB one night.
I thought I was.
I ran a car off the end of that old dark holler down there a few times myself. But yeah, we tore it modified we had at IMCA. We tore it all to pieces over Augusta, Arkansas one night. Put it back together and got back out there for the feature and made a few laps and pulled off. But that was a ride. That looked like Richard Petty going down the front straightaway there. I believe it was at Charlotte where it just come all to pieces. But yeah, we've had a ride by it, guys. Gotta go. Love the stories. Appreciate you being in here, first responder. I think we're gonna get around and get off here too. Get around and do a couple things here in a minute. But I appreciate everybody coming in here. We may be, I was talking to Andy Wood today with Unity Motorsports, and he kind of put me on something that I'm thinking about trying here before long. I'm going to make a video of a local hero. Everybody's going to know him in the drag racing world, and I'm going to work on that. And I've actually already been in contact with his son, and I'm going to talk with him a little bit and see if I can get a little bit of some little bit more insight. But I'll see what I can come up with. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna get around here and see if we can't get off here and see what else we can do. But we appreciate everybody jumping in. I think we're gonna get around and get me another cup of this coffee over here. That's warmed up. It's up to about 50 degrees in here now, so it's about to get tolerable.
All those Salvage Outlaws says in comments and Mavericks make good drag cars, but they are a handful.
Oh yeah. Hey, try to drive one around a dirt track. Woo. they'll get a clean out from underneath you. Especially with a good 302, good GT motor in it. But anyway, we're gonna get around here, guys. We appreciate each and every one of you jumping in here. We're gonna get around and get to doing a little bit of something, if nothing else, drinking some coffee. And that usually puts me right to sleep here in a little while. I'm gonna get around, drink me some, get ready to go to bed a little bit. I gotta go to work tomorrow. Anybody gotta do that? Come on. But I appreciate every one of you. We're gonna get off here. It's Russell here saying God bless you, each and every one of you. And Outfits Garage is saying, keep a hammering, guys.